family, I just want to let you guys know that Africa needs us, and you see everybody over there but us. You see the Chinese over there. You see the Indians over there. You see the white people over there. And they're over there for a reason.
Okay, here we go. So, I am Christopher Franklin, CEO and co-founder of Harmony Village 100. And we have David Franklin. That's my brother, co-founder and COO of Harmony Village. And we're going to tell you guys what we're about here today. So, as you can see, our motto is helping to usher in Africa's green revolution. So just real fast, we'll talk about the Green Revolution for a minute. Africa is the last continent on the globe who has not experienced the Green Revolution as of yet. And what the Green Revolution is when an economy or when a developing company turns that corner in the way of agriculture, whereby increasing their yields significantly to get above the food insecurity standpoint, to become food secure, where they can begin feeding their population and exporting, making additional dollars off of their agriculture. And how they come up to the mainstream is just by adding better technology as far as mechanizing the way they farm, using less manual human labor and more machine labor. They use different, wider varieties of fertilizers and things of that nature to get more robust crops and more bountiful harvests. So similar to the Industrial Revolution that we remember taking place with the US, Great Britain, and Europe, when we had the Industrial Revolution, that's when everything was industrialized with the automobiles, the trains, and things like that. So we are able to come up as far as standards of technology and advance our agenda in terms of the economy and things of that. So it's similar to the Industrial Revolution, but it's just the Agricultural Revolution, more so known as the Green Revolution. So that's one of our main missions, what we want to do our part in ushering in Africa's Green Revolution, because at the point where we are now, we are like pioneers in this industry. So anytime, when you're a pioneer, you can reap the most rewards, not only for yourselves, but for the local people. So I'm looking at Harmony Village 100 as a pioneer in this agricultural thing. So now is the time to get aboard this thing, because it's we already know where it's headed. Okay, next. So we partner with agricultural businesses on the continent of Africa. We're in the EAC doing business, the Eastern African Community, but we're going to cut out everybody else. We're going to just specifically talk about Rwanda today, or Rwanda, as a lot of people know it, because that is our comfort zone. That is where we do most of our business at. So going forward in this presentation, I will do a lot of referencing of Rwanda as opposed to the EAC, or the Eastern African Community, as a whole. So, and we are passionate about partnering with our brothers and sisters because we want to close that wealth gap. We know the big wealth gap that exists between the different people of the world, with Africans being at the bottom of that totem pole. So we are gearing Harmony Village toward African Americans, African Brits, African Germans, any Africans of the diaspora, because I think that we are the key to the success of the continent of Africa. We can pool our resources and give back to the continent in a way that can grow them sustainably and give back to us. So it's a mutual benefit. So that is about us. So basically, I'm going to talk real quick about David and I, the founders of Harmony Village 100. We are brothers, We come from a family of 10, 5 boys, 5 girls, all the same parents. So the values and things that have been instilled in us since young kids are very strong. You know, Dad always taught us what to do, what not to do, right from wrong. Mom was always there reinforcing. Normally the dad is the reinforcer, but in this case, our mom was the reinforcer. She was the one who did the whooping and stuff like that, you know. So we have strong values, and that's what prompts us to want to help our brothers and sisters. And I believe that we have found that way. And David and I took advantage of this on a personal level several years ago, started out by David. But we would like to extend this opportunity to everybody in our community who is willing to jump on board, because we know where this thing is going. This thing is going to take off. And once it takes off, I mean, it's gonna be crazy. And we've already experienced that thus far. And I'll show you a little more later on in the presentation. So a little bit about us as far as our background. We had probably a half a dozen successful businesses in the past, David and I, over the last 20 years. And where we are in the family structure is I am the 5th child and David is the 6th child. So we are a year and a half apart. So he and I kind of meshed well, you know, over everybody else. We all have a very close relationship, but David and I was the ones that were right there our whole life, just doing everything together. So that is the reason why we have had multiple businesses together, and we use those businesses as stepping stones to land us where we are today with Harmony Village 100. So it's always been a passion of both of ours to be able to run a business where we actually helped ourselves, our family, and our community, but also help the continent. David has always been a bit more passionate than I have been as far as going back home and going back to Africa. And that's why he is on his mission. He'll be returning back to his roots on March, I think it's March 7th. Dave, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. March 7th. Arriving March 9th, 1:25 in the morning.
Okay, so he's been so passionate about it, you know, and a lot of people try to kind of not really talk him out of his dreams, but tell him, hey, man, make sure you be safe and all of that. But his thing was, no, we need to be safe over here. We're the one that's getting killed by the police and stuff like that. So I know where I'm going. I'm focused. I'm going to Rwanda, and I'm going to get this thing going. And he did just that in 2020 and made a lot of great investments, brought them back to me, pitched the idea to me. We let this thing actually work and generate for a few years to make sure it was viable, to make sure it was sustainable for the most part. And again, Harmony Village was born. So here we are. All right. So I'm gonna carry on. Like I said, I condensed this some so we will not go over. I value everybody's time, so I don't want to keep pushing this thing out too far. So I'm going to talk about the problems that we've seen from a stateside perspective and an African's perspective. So here, when it comes down to investing, we are just not in the know. We don't know when the next best thing is coming. Everything we invest in here in the United States or Europe or Britain, it's when you find out, when you think you have found out a good time to invest in something, it's already trending and it's too late. So you have to try to get in front of the ball, make your investments on what you think is good. So it's a big gamble. So that's a big problem. When we want to invest, when we want to make money, 9 times out of 10, we have to gamble. Another problem is just the skill set. A lot of people don't have the skill set to invest when it comes to reading the stock market characteristics, such as the tickers and the arrows and stuff like that. We just don't have the skill set as a whole. I'm sure many of us do, but as a whole, we don't. Those are problems. And emotional jumping in and out of the market of that investment vehicle is a problem as well. So I'll talk about the problems that we see in Africa. And when we mesh those together, the solution is Harmony Village 100. So in Africa, the farmers and stuff are just lacking the money. They're lacking the resources to farm the land. A lot of them have land, whether it's been given to them. Government gives a lot of locals or indigenous people land. Some is passed down through the family structure, you know, but where's the money, you know? And where we do business at mainly in Rwanda, it's 12 million, I think over 12 million people in that small country the size of Massachusetts. So it's kind of overpopulated in a sense. So the poverty is there. You know, it's not enough jobs, not enough food growth to maintain the current infrastructure. So we're here to change that. A lot of the farmers that are in business there, the smallholder farmers, they just don't have the skill set, that farming skill set. You know, we see so much on television. When you see images of Africa, you see all of the women down in the fields, tilling the fields, the men doing things. And if from the outside looking in, it looks as though everyone is skilled. These guys are farmers. They know what they're doing. They got this thing figured out. But that's a huge problem, you know, because the farming that a lot of them are doing is what they've been taught from generations to generations. So they are not able to be really productive. You know, they cannot get the most out of the land, you know, and the money isn't there. So they can't cultivate and see their entire lands that they own. So that's another problem. And the third problem is just being exploited. So what's going on as far as the exploitation of the African farmers? We are doing a lot of selling of the raw materials in Africa. And when you sell the raw materials, the money isn't in the raw materials. That's how you stay impoverished. We need to start creating value-added products. So that's a way that Harmony Village will be able to help. So when I say value-added products, I'll just give you an example. We'll say if we have coffee beans growing in Rwanda, and we want to sell those coffee beans. And just for the sake of a number, if I have a handful of coffee beans, I can sell those for 20 cents. But once I sell those to Europe or the United States or to China, they take those 20 cents worth of coffee beans and then they process those. They dry them, they grind them, they do whatever they do, they package them, and then they sell them as coffee. So now that 20 cents, they're selling it for $5, you know? So it's keeping us poor in the way of just selling our raw materials. We got to infuse money into the system to where they can get these processing machines and start processing goods. Same thing with garlic, same thing with chili peppers. With the garlic, we're selling whole garlics. They're therefore cheap again, you know, to the other surrounding countries or continents. We're selling this stuff cheap. They're taking this cheap garlic and they're making minced garlic. They're making garlic paste. They're making garlic powder. Same thing with the chia seeds. I mean, I'm sorry, not the chia seeds, the chia seeds as well, but the chili peppers, from chili peppers. So why are we selling chili peppers to people, raw materials, and letting them process them and make all the money? We can't make any money off of the raw goods as is. So we need to infuse money into that economy to where they can start making the hot sauces, the chili flakes. They can process this stuff, but it takes machinery, it takes equipment, so they can't do any of that processing. So we have to settle for the peanuts that we get when we sell it as that raw material. So with those three problems that Africa has and the three problems that I'm stating that the U.S. have, if we marry those problems, we can get some solutions. And the first would be where I have people in the know. Since we are Harmony Village 100, and this is what we do, Rwanda is our home base. We have been there several times this year, 4 times to be exact in 2022, and it has all been research. We have looked into every facet of agriculture and agriculture investing. We have been all of the government agencies, the RAB, that's the Rwandan Agriculture Board, to the Rwandan Development Board. We've done all the research as it relates to agriculture. And that's why we were there so many times to figure this thing out. And we have it all figured out. We have the solution. So when you invest with us, it's not waiting on that next trend. And like we talked about, once it's trending, it's done. We're making that trend. So we know we're right in the forefront of knowing everything that goes on, all the profitable investments, everything that's going to help ourselves while simultaneously helping the community. So that's a solution for that. Eliminate the need for an investor skill set. Like we talked about, you don't need to know anything about the stock market, ticker symbols, and things like that. Harmony Village 100 cancels all of that out. All you need to know how to do is read. Because if you invest with us, all we will do is we give a newsletter once a month. That kind of keeps everybody in the loop, keep this conversation going. we give a quarterly report. So every quarter, you can look and see exactly what your finances is doing, what we're doing, what your investment is worth at that exact time. So when you come aboard with us, it takes all of that skills out. You don't need any of that skills. You just read the information that we give you on a monthly basis, and that's as simple as that. And then the ability to emotionally jump in and out. Obviously, you can't just jump in, jump out. So that's taken away as well. So that's a solution on the state side. And then the solution on the African side is that we are infusing that capital into the local smallholder farmers, even the small businesses. In fact, we've partnered with 2 small businesses where we're not just investing in it, we are actually stakeholders. We have equity in the company. So we're infusing capital into these different farmers and these different businesses. And then with that added resources that we're giving to these companies, they are able to now get training, get an agronomist on site that can look into that soil, can tell them which properties are being depleted and which properties are being replenished. Basically give them the scientific way of how to farm so they'll be successful, so their harvest will be full instead of sparse. So that's another thing, aiding training. And then minimize the exploitation of workers. So what we have found is a lot of places are still exploiting workers, paying them no money to work, and they're working ungodly hours. So when we partner with a company on the continent of Africa, we have a clause that they must sign that minimizes the chance of them exploiting workers. I wouldn't say it 100% takes that chance away, but it minimizes it, because we can go into any of their facilities any day that they're in operation. We have all access pass through any facility, whether it be a local facility, across the country somewhere. We have an all access pass to go into any of these facilities, talk to the workers, just mosey around and see what's going on. So with our presence there, the likelihood of any workers being exploited monetarily, being paid 50 cents a day or being made to work 16 hours a day, that drastically goes down. Like I said, we minimize it. We can't totally eliminate it, but we do our part in minimizing the worker exploitation. So with solutions marrying each other like that, all of the solutions that we had here in Africa, here in the US and there in Africa, all of those problems mesh together with our solutions. That's us at Harmony Village. So it's like a no-lose situation. I think we really got this thing lit, David. Okay. So I just want to share really fast our original timeline. This was the original timeline that we set forth for ourselves. So we've been investing in Rhonda collectively since early 2020. Right there at COVID time. So this thing has manifested over a couple of years, and we had kind of a foresight or a projection of where we wanted to be at what time. So our goal was to be at $1 million. And when I say $1 million, I mean $1 million taken in from investors like you and invested into the continent. We wanted to meet that benchmark by December of 2022, which is now. The 2 million by December of 2023 and 10 million by December of 2024. And we're glad to say that we met our benchmark in February, mid-February, of $1 million taken in from investors like you and invested into the continent of Africa. And we're well on our way to reaching that $2 million mark, which we had set for the end of 24. If our projections are correct, we will probably make that just before the middle of 2023, around April or May. So as far as everything is going great. People are consistently coming on board, and they have faith in us because they know that, like I said, we're at the pioneer stage, and this is exactly where you want to get on at right now, because once it gets going and the momentum is happening, yeah, you can still get on, but things are going to kind of level out. Right now, what we're doing is we're maximizing returns. We're giving it all back because we are so passionate about closing that wealth gap. We need the continent of Africa as a whole to come up. And as you know, the diaspora is the way. The diaspora, the African diaspora is the way for Africa to come up into the mainstream. I was listening to a podcast today, and they were interviewing a lot of prominent leaders in Africa, and they were talking about the brain drain and what that was. And I won't go all off into it. When the colonists came into Africa and took a lot of people out of there, they took the brightest and the best, and they called it the brain drain. Therefore, all of the diasporans, the African diasporans, which is us, anybody of African descent living outside of Africa, as far as they are concerned, we were the brains that was drained. So they are looking. That's why, like Ghana had the year of return. All of these African nations want us back because not only do we have the resources, we have the brains. And if we could go there with the young population that they have, and I didn't realize their population was between, their average age was between 19 and 22 on the continent of Africa. That's a young population. So if we go there with the resources, we stand to make a ton, and they stand to make a ton. So I kind of digress. So let me keep moving forward. I just want to share a little bit about our vetting process on how we find different companies. So right now we have an investment strategist, which is Joseph. He's on the line with us. And in a nutshell, the process that we use is we make preliminary contact with the companies. And sometimes we seek them out ourselves. Other times we go to the Rwandan Development Board and get a list of companies that are looking for investment. And the advantage of going to the Rwandan Development Board and not just finding them on our own is that it's qualifications that companies have to meet before the government would put them on this list. So that's like the first little barrier that's knocked out the way that you can say, okay, this company must be somewhat above board or they wouldn't be on this list. So that's the first thing. We'll get this list or we'll make our own initial contact. We'll email them, ask them if they're looking for investment. If they confirm that, we will then send them a questionnaire. Questionnaire is just very brief, one page, just basic questions. How long have you been in business? How long you're in people? I mean, how many people are in the company? Just basic questions is that back. And depending on how many companies that Joseph have contacted, how many companies are on the Rwandan. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry. I was clearing my throat. Go ahead.
Okay, I thought someone was stopping me. Okay, so depending on how many companies that Joseph has reached out to, how many companies are on the list from the Rwandan Development Board, we would look through all of them. And we sift through them pretty good. Only a few make the cut. You have to really be talking the talk that we're looking for. So we throw a lot of them out. We advance with some of them, and we'll make a secondary contact. We'll send them another questionnaire to answer. And now this questionnaire is fairly long. We're trying to weed them out before we invest too much time in them. So we don't want to invest too much time talking and meeting and going to their facilities, and it all turned out we have to send them a rejection letter. So if they make the cut with that second questionnaire, then we would invite them to pitch to us over this type of platform. We'd have a virtual meeting. They'll go over their pitch deck. We'll ask them many questions and concerns. At that point, if they pass that section, then we would do a field trip to their facilities. And if they have multiple facilities that are local, then we would visit them all, walk through, take a look at their capital assets and things like that. And if this company from that questionnaire and from our field trip seems to be a good fit, seems to be profitable, seems to be on the right path, then after that, we'll have them submit all of their documentation. And some of the documentation is pretty intrusive, but it's needed from our end. So a quick example, we had one company who told us that we were asking for too much information because we needed pictures of the passports, birth certificates, And that was only one company out of many that we have interviewed, but they ended up coming on. But just saying all that to say, once they submit their documents and we have all of those in our possession, now we can verify their authenticity and we can do our homework on this company with the different government agencies and that nature. So if all of that checks out and all the numbers are there after they open their books and things, then we move to closing and we fund the deal. So that's the process on how we vet different companies before we send our precious resources over to be controlled by them for the next, for the duration of that partnership. So I'll move right along. So this is what everybody's been waiting to see, I'm sure. So we have 3 partnerships at this time, only 3, the minimum of $1,000 with no maximum. And we have people who've invested a minimum of $1,000 all the way up. So the first partnership we have is a 1.5 year, and I'll go over all 3 of them briefly. In this 1.5 year, you get a 40% total return on your money. So the first payment you will get in 1 year, which will be 70% of your original. So let's just say a round number, 100,000 or 1,000, 100,000. If you partner with us for that amount, after 12 months, you will receive 70,000. 6 months thereafter, you will receive an additional 70,000. So that's a 40% total return, but that's actually like a 26 point something percent APR, which is phenomenal. You don't get 26% APR nowhere. So the second one is a 2.5 year partnership where you essentially double your money in 2.5 years, where the first payment will come at that 2-year mark of the exact amount of your partnership. So you will get 2 payments for 100,000, one at 2 years, the second one 6 months thereafter at 2.5 years, an additional 100,000. So you effectively doubled your money. And that is a 40% return on your money. So we won't even talk about what 40% APR, 40% APR, 100% total return. And then lastly, the 3.5 year partnership, where you have a total return of 175% after 3.5 years. So just like the first 2, you get that first payment after 3 years, which is 175% of your additional amount invested. So if it's 100,000 again, after 3 years, you will get a check for 175,000. And then 6 months thereafter, at 3.5 years, you will get your original investment back of 100,000 for a total of 275,000. And if you break that down by APR, because a lot of people like to talk APR, it's 50%, which is huge. So you can literally
unheard of.
Yeah, you can literally buy a job. So you're doing 50% return. If you put 100,000 in, you'll get back 50,000 a year profit. If you put 1,000 in, you'll get back 500 a year profit. So those returns are phenomenal. And the reason that this is possible, if you guys notice, in the 1.5 year program, you don't get any money for 1 year. The 2.5, you don't get any for 2 years. The 3.5, you don't get any for 3 years. And why we hold that money so long? Because it allows us to reinvest. So since their harvest cycles are 5-6 months on average, we get to reinvest your money every 6 months. So if you could imagine us holding on to your money for 3 years in this 3.5 year partnership, we can reinvest that 2, 4, 6 times. So we get the benefit of compounding interest. So this is how we can offer so high returns like that, because this money is being constantly put back into that agricultural sector, and those returns are coming, and we get the benefit from compounding interest, which we're turning over to you guys. So I'm going to keep going here. This is the team. Right now, we're a small company. You guys have met me already. I've been doing all this blabbing here. I'm Christopher Franklin, co-founder and CEO. I am a mechanical engineer by trade. I have been mechanical engineer for the last almost 20 years. Before I left my last job, I was the director of research and development in North America, and I decided to stopped doing that because we found this awesome opportunity, and it's been working for the last 2.5 years or so. So the time that I put into Harmony Village 100 is it's a lot, you know, and it would not allow me to effectively do my day job simultaneously with doing this, because it's very time consuming and it's a lot. And I'm so passionate about this thing that I want to put everything I have into it without having to know that I got to go in here, punch this clock, and I can't focus. So we're driving this thing. Next, we have David on the line. I don't know if you want to say a word or two, David.
Yeah, I'll say a word or two real quick. Family, Dave Franklin, CEO. Family, I just want to let you guys know that Africa needs us, you know. And you see everybody over there but us. You see the Chinese over there. You see the Indians over there. You see the white people over there. And they're over there for a reason, you know. They're over there for a reason because they're getting billions upon billions of dollars. You know, and they just feed the propaganda to us so to keep us from over there. And like my brother said earlier, when they took us from Africa, they took the best and the brightest. So they knew exactly who they took, and they knew exactly what they were doing. And that's all I got to say, Chris. You can go ahead.
Okay, next on the team, we have Joseph Bezier-Remini. He is our investment strategist, and Joseph, like myself, is an engineer. Joseph is a civil engineer, so he and I both are working outside of our trades. So Joseph, if you're there, would you like to say a word?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Chris. I'm Joseph Bezier-Remini. The reason why I'm passionate about doing in agriculture sector, since my childhood, my parents was farmers, and I like to be in agriculture sector because since I was a child, I was seeing my parents growing some avocados, growing some maize, and then after I was at college, if I remember well, it is in level 2. So I started to see the gap between the farmers. So because I remember one time my parents was having like 1 hectare, and then they didn't have the capacity to put the enough like fertilizers, like manure, and there is a lot of such kind of problem. So in that time, I've started to see that there is much more problem in agriculture than in any other sectors. And if you know that in Rwanda, the agriculture sector is almost 80% for the dependence of the most people. So from since level 2, I have started to be in communication with these people that are involved in agriculture, like the CEOs of these companies, like those business owners. So I start to communicate with them. Then they start to pitch me that, Joseph, here we have a lot of opportunity in agriculture, but the problem, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the resources. So we don't have the means to explore, like exporting our harvest, like processing our harvest. So the time when I meet with Dev, on the first time I meet with Dev, it's where I have just pitching him these ideas. Please, here we have a lot of opportunity in agriculture. Can we find the financials or find the resources to overcome this gap? Then that time, we have all of us see these big challenges, and it's when the Harmony Village has come to solve these challenges of resources here in our country. Thank you.
Okay, and we have Alex. Alex is another one of our operations manager that works directly under David to make sure that once we do tours and things of that nature, we have a lot of people that come there who want to go on a tour, who want to see the land and stuff that we're invested in, want to go by the company. So we do offer tours if anyone is in town. And Alex will drive. He'll be the tour guide. He does a lot of videography and things like that for us. And we have one other employee. Her name is Weirda Kelly, and she's the numbers girl. She does all the spreadsheets and all of our numbers. So in summary, you guys know we believe in giving all of ourselves. We are totally focused on our partners and our community as far as advancing the agenda of closing that wealth gap. I mean, I can't stress this enough. We have to get off of the bottom of this thing and start to that upward trend into getting some of this benefits that the motherland has to offer. And not only are we benefiting, they are equally benefiting. So it's a mutually good relationship. So when they see us coming, we are being embraced. And as we go, we embrace them because we are mutually benefiting from each other. And we just love for you guys to come and join us and start reaping some of the benefits as well. It's a win-win. So that's it. And thank you guys. So we'll go into I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll go into questions and answers here.
You know, how things work. How do you go about doing that? Maybe like a year or two from now, you're like, oh, I know my money is working, but I want to know what exactly like the weeds of how things work and that type of nature.
Okay, so yeah, if you're ever in the vicinity where we're doing our business at, like we said, we'll be glad to take you on a tour, show you how your money is working, any of that. But there is really no other way to become more involved. I mean, we're an open door. You can ask all the questions you want, but the best way to become more involved would be to bring somebody on. And when I say somebody on, not on as no team, nothing, no pyramid stuff, just bring another investor. And all that would do is advance our agenda. That would be one more person who will begin making all of these high returns that we can't make. We just don't have the opportunity to make these high returns where we live at in the States. I don't know. I can't speak on it in the UK where Isaac is from, but maybe he can say something toward that. But we don't have any opportunity to make anything other than about 10% return on our money. So yeah, the best thing you could do is bring other people on, let them hear what we have to say, let them wisen up and make money for their family. Or like I said, if you're in the vicinity of East Africa, we'd be glad to show you what your money is doing.
And also, Jamise, if you go to our YouTube page, Harmony Village 100, you can see exactly what we do. We have boots on the ground. You can see us talking to the CEOs of these companies. You can see us walking their lands. You can see us doing everyday operations. So Harmony Village 100, you'll see it all. We have nothing to hide.
Gotcha. I have one more question. So once you make your initial investment based on the whatever tiers, are you able to go in throughout the year to add more? Or is there like at your 1 year mark, then you go back and you be like, okay, at this point you can add more at this point?
Yeah, you can add more anytime you want to. It would just be another contract. So if you put in $1,000 and you have a 1.5 year contract and you want to come in 2 months later with another 1,000, it would be another 1.5 year contract that would mature 2 months after that initial one did.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's it for me.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, whatever you got.
I've just got a quick question. I just wanted to ask, are people able to specify what the investment is or what company it goes into, or is that something that the company decides where to put the funds?
Yeah, so yeah, there is no option of where to put your funds because we are invested all over the place. So there's not one specific company that we can say, okay, here we have another $5,000, another $10,000. We want to invest in this company. And the reason being, some companies pay us 20%, some companies pay 30%, some pay 35%. So there would be no way for us to direct your funds to a certain company. That's kind of why we formed the Harmony Village thing, to where we can pool it and diversify it so it's viable and productive for everybody. And I don't think I've got a chance to tell you guys the quick story about before Harmony Village 100 was born. We tried to direct people to the different businesses that we were doing business with ourselves. So they didn't even have to go through us. They could just contact them. And the numbers were so overwhelming for those companies, we were asked to stop. I'm talking to one company was right on the verge of hiring somebody just to take the calls that were coming in from us, you know. So then after that, we got told to stop. So we stopped, and then David and I went back to the drawing board like, man, you know, if nobody can, and then there was a language barrier. A lot of people weren't actually pulling the trigger. They were just calling.
Nobody was pulling the trigger. That's why we were told to stop. Nobody was investing.
Right, and then there was a language barrier, so it was hard for these companies. So we went on ahead and said, okay, let's let people do it through us. But it took us a while to figure out how to structure this thing. It was quite hard, but we were successful at it, and it's rolling now like a well-oiled machine.
I have another question, Mr. Jameis. So is this almost similar to like a crowdfund?
Yes, you can kind of say that. It's very similar, yes. And the only difference really is with the crowdfunding, you can do those small investments, $20, $30 and stuff like that. So David and I are doing this, and we just don't have the capacity to handle that, which is why our initial investment was $5,500 to avoid the masses overwhelming us. And with that $5,500, we ended up taking in about $1.15 million at that amount. Kind of went stagnant, but our inboxes and everything were just bursting at the seams with people saying, I want to get involved. I don't have 5,500. So David and I deliberated back and forth for weeks. Like, man, you know, we can take this thing down, but we don't want to be swamped. You know, we got to be very strategic how low we take this thing, or it's just the paperwork side of it is just going to be overwhelming. So that's when we came down to 1,000. So as we grow, it may even go down lower, but right now we're able to manage the influx of new partners right now seamlessly. So yeah, that's it.
So what's the probability of, like, say you took your company to like Shark Tank or something to that nature, and they've like, or you get bought out by like, I don't know, some rich white man. Have your company not been approached to that type of level yet, or anything?
We have not been approached with that yet, but this is a conversation that David and I have had amongst ourselves, and it would have to be a hell of an offer because we already know what we're trying to do. And if someone wanted to come and take this thing from us, we don't think that we would allow that to happen because their agenda would not be what ours is. Their agenda would be that capitalist mind, just making money, while we're actually trying to do something with our community. We're trying to make a dent in this gap that we're seeing worldwide. So yeah, we haven't been approached, and if we are, I don't know how that would go. You know?